Throughout history, people have feared monsters hiding in the woods vampires, witches, demons, but one of the oldest monsters of all is the werewolf, a creature that's part man, part beast, cursed to hunt under the light of the full moon. While most dismiss these stories as folklore, one man from the 16th century Germany blurred the lines between myth and reality so completely that hundreds of years later, people still debate what really happened. Was Peter Stumpp truly Europe's most infamous werewolf, or was he simply another victim of fear, torture, and superstition? Welcome back to Meals Done Alive 4, the podcast where true crime, dark history, conspiracy, and food collide. I'm your host, Jody Breton, and every week we serve up the stories that are as disturbing as they are fascinating, paired with a meal inspired by the chaos. So grab a plate, lock your doors, and let's dig in. Today, we're making a gingerbread cake. The year was 1589. Germany wasn't yet the unified country we know today. Instead, it was divided into dozens of territories ruled by nobles, bishops, and princes. Religion had torn much of Europe apart, and the Protestant Reformation had sparked decades of violence between Catholics and Protestants. Life for the average person was harsh. Disease was common, famine wasn't unusual. If crops failed or livestock died, people searched for someone to blame. That search often ended with accusations of witchcraft. This was an era when people genuinely believed the devil walked among them. Witches confessed to flying through the night, demons were blamed for illness, and strange animal attacks could easily become evidence of something supernatural. It was into this world that Peter Stumpp entered history. He lived in a small farming village of Bedburg just outside Cologne. By most accounts, Peter was a wealthy farmer. He owned land, had children, and appeared to be a respected member of the community, at least on the surface. According to the pamphlets published after his execution, Peter claimed that when he was just 12 years old, he made a pact with the devil himself. Satan supposedly rewarded him with a magical belt. Whenever Peter wrapped it around his waist, witnesses claimed he transformed into an enormous wolf. Not just an ordinary wolf, this creature was described as something unnaturally large with glowing eyes like great saucers, enormous teeth, and claws capable of tearing through flesh with ease. When he removed the belt, he supposedly became human once again. Whether such a belt ever existed is another matter entirely. No one claimed to have found it. In fact, Peter reportedly insisted that the devil reclaimed it before authorities could seize it, conveniently leaving behind no evidence. Over the next 25 years, stories spread throughout the countryside. Livestock disappeared, children vanished, travelers were found horribly mutilated. The attacks were savage enough that many villagers refused to enter nearby forests alone. Hunters organized wolf hunts, believing an unusually vicious predator had settled in the region. Yet, despite repeated attempts, they never seemed to be able to catch the animal. Then the rumors changed. People began whispering that this wasn't simply a wolf, it was something pretending to be one. Eventually, local hunters claimed they cornered the beast after an especially long chase. The story says that the wolf escaped into a field, it suddenly disappeared, and moments later, Peter Stumpp emerged from the same location. There was no wolf, only the farmer. The hunters insisted they had never taken their eyes off the animal. To them, there was only one explanation. They hadn't been chasing a wolf after all. They'd been chasing Peter. He was arrested almost immediately. What happened next should make every modern listener uncomfortable. Peter's confession wasn't obtained through evidence. It wasn't witnessed voluntarily. It came after brutal torture. Authorities stretched him on the rack until his joints dislocated. When that wasn't enough, they crushed his limbs. Only then did Peter begin confessing, and once he started, the confession became increasingly unbelievable. Peter admitted to murdering more than a dozen children. He claimed to have eaten their brains because he believed they were especially delicious. He confessed to killing pregnant women and tearing unborn babies from their wombs. According to the records, he even claimed to have consumed their hearts while they were still warm. His crimes didn't stop there. He admitted to murdering livestock, travelers, neighbors, practically anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. Authorities also accused him of incest with his own daughter and maintaining a relationship with a female demon called a succubus. By the time his confession ended, Peter wasn't just a serial killer. He had become the living embodiment of every fear 16th century Europe held about evil. But historians have long questioned every part of his confession. Under torture, people will often say whatever they believe their captors want to hear. Today, courts around the world reject confessions obtained through torture because they're notoriously unreliable. Victims have confessed to impossible crimes, to flying, to witchcraft, even to impossible acts that they physically could not have committed. Peter's confession may tell us less about him and more about what his interrogators already believed. Unfortunately for Peter, his fate had already been decided. On October 31st, 1589, Halloween, thousands reportedly gathered to witness his execution. What followed was one of the most gruesome public punishments in European history. Peter was tied to a large wooden wheel. Executioners heated red-hot pincers over an open fire. One by one, they tore strips of flesh from his body. Then they shattered his arms and legs with the blunt side of an axe, ensuring he couldn't survive for long. Finally, he was beheaded. His body was burned to ashes. Authorities hoped that by destroying every part of him, no trace of the so-called werewolf would ever return. His daughter and his alleged mistress were also executed, accused of helping conceal his crimes. Whether they actually knew anything remains unknown. The authorities weren't finished making an example of him. They erected a tall pole where the execution took place. At the top sat a carved wooden wolf. Below it hung Peter's severed head. The display remains standing as a warning to anyone who might consider serving the devil, or perhaps as propaganda reinforcing the church's authority during one of Europe's most turbulent periods. So, was Peter Stumpp actually a werewolf? Almost certainly not. Could he have been a murderer? Possibly. Some historians believe that there may have been genuine killings in the area, and Peter became the convenient suspect. Others argue there is almost no reliable evidence outside the torture-induced confession and sensationalized pamphlets printed after his death. Those pamphlets were designed to sell. The more horrifying the story, the more copies people bought. Over 4 centuries later, separating fact from fiction has become nearly impossible. What remains undeniable is Peter Stumpp's legacy. His case helped cement the werewolf as a terrifying figure in European folklore. Stories of cursed men transforming beneath the full moon spread across the continent, inspiring countless legends that eventually evolved into the werewolf we know today through books, films, and popular culture. Whether Peter was a monster, a murderer, or simply another victim of fear and religious hysteria, his story reminds us that sometimes history's most terrifying monsters aren't supernatural at all. Sometimes they're the stories people choose to believe.